And let's start with some international news first, where Ireland has voted by a landslide margin to liberalise its highly restrictive abortion laws in a referendum. Now, Ireland has voted overwhelmingly to overturn the abortion ban by 66 to 34%. Now, currently, abortion is only allowed when a woman's life is at risk, but not in cases of rape, incest or fatal fetal abnormalities. Now, Ireland's Prime Minister Leo Varadkar has in fact hailed the country's referendum on abortion laws. Now, Varadkar has said that it's a momentous day for Ireland after the country had voted to change its abortion laws. Now, Varadkar had campaigned to repeal the laws and had called the vote a once-in-a-generation chance. Now, the leaders of North and South Korea held a surprise meet at the demilitarized zone in Panmunjom. This was their second meet in 1 month. The meet comes just 2 days after US President Donald Trump had scrapped the much-anticipated Singapore meet with Kim Jong-un, which was scheduled for the 12th of June. Now, both the leaders exchanged their views on Kim's summit with Donald Trump. A White House spokeswoman, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, has said that a White House team will leave as scheduled for Singapore this weekend to prepare for a possible summit between US President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. And the announcement comes at the time when there is no clarity on whether the crucial summit will indeed take place. Now, left-wing parties and also unions staged protests in France against President Emmanuel Macron's reforms of the public sector. The hundreds of thousands of protesters took to the streets across the country to show anger at Macron. To this, President Macron has said that his economic changes are actually meant to increase France's global competitiveness. Now, 11 police officers and also a journalist have been injured during an Albanian opposition demonstration demanding the resignation of the Interior Minister. The protesters have criticised the minister for the fact that his brother has not been extradited to Italy, where a court has ruled to arrest him over the drug trade. Madagascar citizens and politicians gathered in a coliseum reacting to the Constitutional Court's bid to end the political crisis. The court has ordered the president to form a government of a national union. Madagascar has been rocked by violent protests over electoral laws that the opposition says are designed to bar their candidates from participating in elections expected this year. The Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and Russian President Vladimir Putin have met in Moscow to discuss bilateral economic cooperation and security issues. Vladimir Putin has said that a solution with Japan has to be found to allow the two countries to conclude a World War II peace treaty which would reflect the interests of both the nations. Russian President Vladimir Putin met with Chinese Vice President Wang Qishan in Russia's St. Petersburg, and they agreed to further boost the bilateral cooperation for the benefit of both the countries and the whole world. Putin will visit China next month to attend a summit in Qingdao of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is a regional security bloc led by Beijing and Moscow. Pakistan will hold general elections on the 25th of July as the government enters its final week in office. Now, Pakistan's National Assembly is to be dissolved on the 31st of May. The polling for the national and the provincial assemblies will be held on the same day, and President Mamnoon Hussain has approved a summary sent by the Election Commission of Pakistan recommending the election date. Now, Colombia is set to vote for presidential elections today. This is the first presidential election since the government's 2016 peace deal with the former rebel movement FARC. Over 36 million voters will be going to the polling stations across the country to cast their ballot. Now, China and Burkina Faso have formally established diplomatic relations at ambassadorial level. And this comes just days after the West African nation broke off the relations with Taiwan. Now, Beijing has been trying to isolate the self-governing island Taiwan on the global stage, and that Taiwan is part of China with no right to formal diplomatic ties. The first Shanghai Cooperation Organization Political Parties Forum has been held in Shenzhen city of South China's Guangdong province. The forum was in fact aimed to promote exchanges amongst all parties and enhance mutual trust. Representatives of the SCO member nations, observer countries and also dialogue partners gathered to discuss ways of exchange and cooperation. The reports in Pakistani media have suggested the Financial Action Task Force or the FATF has alerted Pakistan to take concrete action against groups allegedly linked to Hafiz Saeed, and this is to avert possible tough sanctions in June this year. Pakistan had submitted its action plan with the terror financing watchdogs Asia Pacific Group in a meeting held in Bangkok earlier this week. The Pakistani army has summoned the former chief of the country's top intelligence agency ISI, retired Lieutenant General Asad Durrani. The Durrani has co-authored a book, The Spy Chronicles, Raw ISI and also The Illusion of Peace, with former chief of India's research and analysis wing A.S. Dulat and also Indian journalist Aditya Singh. The Pakistani army is seeking an explanation from Durrani over the book. Now, the Air Force of China's South Sea Fleet has recently conducted live ammunition combat training in the South China Sea. The drill involved nearly 100 aircrafts, including fighter jets and bombers. The purpose of the exercise reportedly was to improve the Air Force's general combat abilities. A detained British-Iranian aid worker Nazneen Zaghari-Ratcliffe, who was sentenced to 5 years in prison in Iran, is to face a second trial on fresh security charges. Ratcliffe was convicted of plotting to overthrow Iran's clerical establishment, and the British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson had discussed Zaghari-Ratcliffe's case with the Iranian officials after flying to Tehran in the month of December to try to seek her release. The Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has received an honorary degree from a university in India's eastern West Bengal state. Now, Hasina was on a two-day visit to India on the invitation of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, Hasina also attended a special convocation at the Qazi Nazrul University, where she was felicitated for her contributions towards building a society of exploitation and disparity. Now, hundreds of people demonstrated in Syria's northeastern city of Qamishli in response to a call by the Kurdish authorities for global protests. The Kurdish authorities have called for protests against Turkey's military presence in the flashpoint Afrin region. The Turkish forces and also the allied Syrian rebels had seized the northwestern Afrin region from the Kurdish fighters in the month of March. This happened after a 2-month military offensive that prompted tens of thousands of people to flee from the nation. Ramadan festivities are being observed around the world, and Muslims are celebrating the festival even in the war-ravaged nation of Syria as well. NGOs in northern Syria are organizing iftar for the displaced people from eastern Ghouta and homes in the town of Marat al-Numan. The iftar is the meal to break the fast during the holy month of Ramadan. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be inaugurating India's first smart and green highway called the Eastern Peripheral Expressway. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be travelling in an open jeep on the Delhi-Meerut Expressway for the inauguration of the expressway. Now, the expressway has in fact been built at a cost of nearly about $2 billion. Now, the roadshow will start from Nizamuddin Bridge in the eastern part of New Delhi. The Executive Director of the UN Environment, Eric Solheim, has visited the Solar Airport in India. Solheim has said that the world's first solar-powered Cochin International Airport in India's southern Kerala state is the future of the world. The United Nations Environmental Chief explored other green initiatives taken by the airport authorities as well. The Indian Meteorological Department has predicted that the intense heat wave sweeping through large parts of North India will continue for the next 3 days. Now, according to the Met Department, there is no scope of any rain over the course of the next 72 hours. However, by the end of May, people in the northern part of India may experience some relief due to the easterly winds. Now, 2 people, including a child, have been killed and 3 others have gone missing in the Omani province of Dhofar after cyclone Meikunu hit the country. Now, the cyclone was downgraded to a tropical storm just a day after lashing Oman and killing at least about 2 people. The residents have been advised to stay indoors. At least about 21 people have died and 2 have gone missing due to the rains and the winds in Sri Lanka. Bad weather has hit and has affected almost about 150,000 people across the country over the course of the last week. There was heavy rainfall from the 16th of May at the onset of the northeast monsoon rains, with many places going underwater. Landslide warnings have also been issued in the hill districts. The spill gates have also been opened in several reservoirs in the country. A massive fire has broken out in Germany's popular amusement park Europa. The park attracts as many as 5.6 million visitors annually. The video clips uploaded to social media showed thick black plumes of smoke rising in the air. Efforts are on to douse the fire and no casualties have been reported so far. A sudden snowstorm has heightened the beauty of swathes of tulips in a scenic spot at Xinjiang Uyghur in northwest China. Around 1.3 million tulips of about 21 varieties are blooming in snow in the Khitai County. The tulips look especially bright and beautiful against the background of white snow that fell this week. The Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, on a 3-day visit to Russia, in fact took part in the handing over of an Akita puppy to the Russian Olympic champion figure skater Elena Zakitova. The 3-month-old female puppy has been offered to the teenage Pyeongchang Winter Olympic gold medalist by a group dedicated to preserving the Japanese breed. The China-themed flower festival has drawn visitors from far and wide to the Italian city of Noto with spectacular floral works of art. The theme of the 39th edition of the Infiorata Flower Festival was China in Bloom, the Silk Streets. As a tradition, a street in the city was transformed this year into a carpet of petals, scents and colors for about 6 meters. The French band Houle d'Ors amazed the Chinese spectators with a thrilling sky concert on the Tiananmen Mountain in central China's National Forest Park. 6 performers wearing safety belts went on stage where they played instruments while walking on tightropes high in the air. In addition to playing music, they also showed off their slacklining skills by bouncing and even rolling on the tightropes. A single pair of premium melons has fetched a record US $29,300 at an auction in Japan, where the fruit is regarded as a status symbol. But the seasonal fruit offerings in Japan routinely attract massive sums from buyers seeking social prestige. The Yubari melons are in fact considered as a status symbol in Japan. The best quality Yubari melons are perfect spears with a smooth, evenly patterned rind. The scientists in Japan have discovered a new use for trees that is making booze. Since 2009, researchers in Japan have been testing out environment-friendly ways to disintegrate and then ferment wood to make fuel or alcohol without using chemicals or heat. They discovered the process could in fact be done entirely with just food additives, which led them to the idea of drinkable alcohol. An international expo on big data has been opened in southwest China, attracting about 40,000 participants from nearly 30 countries. The 4-day China International Big Data Industry Expo 2018 focuses on the latest technological innovations and achievements, and this will be attended by as many as 388 exhibitors. Well, to some cricketing action now, in the 2018 edition of the Indian Premier League draws to a close today with two-time champions Chennai Super Kings taking on the 2016 winners Sunrisers Hyderabad in the grand final at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. The Hyderabad have their task cut out, having lost all three of their matches against Chennai so far this season.